How are you? My name is Bimal. The other day, I made a very short video about why Gautam Buddha is a genius. I told about three different points. Number one, his diagnosis of problem. Number two, his discovery of a solution. And third, his delivery of a solution at scale. And it was a very brief video, but what I feel is it requires double clicking and going deep dive on why Gautam Buddha is genius. So before I move on, I want to tell you this. This is from my personal experience of meditating and attending Vipassana meditation. So this is not from reading through all the books or all the literatures out there in meditation or religion or Buddhism so far. It's my personal experience of going through the retreat. So before I double down on why Buddha is genius, I like to give you a brief context about me. I was born in Nepal, where Buddha was born in the present day Nepal. I was born in Kathmandu Valley, and if you know anything about Kathmandu Valley, it is called City of Temple. It is also a melting pot between two different spiritual ideologies, such as Buddhism and Hinduism. Everywhere I go, every block I can see chaityas, stupas, gumbas, and so on. But growing up in Nepal, it didn't occur to me about meditation and why Buddha is a genius. It's just ubiquitous everywhere. It's just there. And after 37 years, living in India for 7 years, Europe for 6 months, and US for 6 years, my time for Vipassana meditation came. And I feel like that was the right time. And I live in Boston, and I drove 7 hours north to Canada and did a Vipassana retreat for 10 days silent meditation. And after that meditation, I realized why Gautam Buddha is a truly a genius. Let me start one by one. And in order to experience that, I have lived 37 years, moved far away from home, about 10,000 miles, and go through various professional and personal experiences. And I feel like I was completely ready for the meditation because as when I am ready, or sometimes it's called when a student is ready, a teacher arrives. And I was ready for meditation. And it became the meditation retreat program was very impromptu. I talked to a friend about my mental state, and he recommended I take a Vipassana meditation, silent meditation retreat. And searched for what are the nearest centers around Boston. And luckily, it was available in Montebello, Canada. Generally, it's always sold out in months, and people book in months before. For me, I was just able to book for 1 week in advance, and that's why it's called when the student is ready, a teacher arrives. And I drove 7 hours up north and did the Vipassana meditation for 10 days. And here is my experience about it. Number one, when I say diagnostic of a problem, then take a pause back. There is a biology or in any science, there is this quotation that everything makes sense when you look at through the evolutionary lens. Now, even human being, let us look through the evolutionary lens. One. So 2500, 2600 years ago, when Gautam Buddha was alive, it was already through thousands of years of civilization. Before that, humans used to be hunter-gatherers. And this is precisely when Buddha's diagnosis is genius. So in order to diagnose the problem, I feel he understood the evolutionary aspects of it. And here is an example of it. When he said life is suffering, we are constantly responding to the craving of pain or pleasure cycle. And is and the pain or pleasure cycle is transient. And immediately after we take an action to respond to our craving, yes, we get fulfilled for a time being, but again, the craving, the trigger arrives immediately after some time. And people keep on responding to that the cycle, and hence life is suffering, especially in the civilized society or agricultural society. And if you go back, this craving of hunger, sex, in the hunter-gatherer days is a survival instinct. And in that survival instinct, all the resources were scarce. Therefore, it makes sense. Take two examples, food and sex. When you get food, eat food as much as possible because you don't know when your next meal will come from. And you want to be gluttonous, eat as much as possible because you want to store fat for for the winter or for the food when it is scarce. So it totally makes sense to respond to that stimuli of hunger. And second, even for sex, so animals have two basic instincts. One survival, another is survival of its own body and survival of the species. And even for species, even hunter-gatherers, I'm sure the infant mortality rate could be pretty high. Therefore, they want to reproduce as many as possible. And for that purpose, one needs to have desire for sex. And when human beings live like wild animals in hunter-gatherer days, it makes sense to respond to these stimuli and the life goes on, and hence there is no suffering at all. Now, after the agricultural revolution, human beings started building civilization where there was and hierarchies. And in that particular environment, it was no longer the natural environment human beings left. It was no longer a scarce environment. It's a surplus environment, especially for who are in the higher echelons of the society. And Gautam Buddha was a prince. And for him, if you wanted food, there is abundance of food. If you wanted pleasure, there is abundance of pleasure. And he could see all around that how people are suffering. And even today, if you think about it, we have so much stimulus around. We no longer live in the scarce environment. Everything is abundant. And if we keep on responding to the cravings of our desires, then we fall into that vicious cycle. There is a desire, there is craving, we take action, and we feel temporarily good. And after certain time, then we start getting into problems. For example, if you keep on eating it, obviously obesity. If you go on the desire for sex, and obviously there's sexual transmitted diseases and also obviously mental diseases and so on, it's no longer a survival instinct and survival necessity. And if you keep on responding to survival instinct that we have when we had in hunter-gatherer days, then obviously life is going to be suffering. And when I was doing Vipassana, and it occurred to me that when it looked at evolutionary lens, the diagnosis of a problem is spot on. And today, days, because we have a lot of knowledge about how the evolution worked out, we can read books, we can understand that. Imagine having this revelation 2,500 years ago, 2,600 years ago. Somebody has to be genius. And that's why I say understanding alone through this on the evolutionary lens is a genius, but he is spot on diagnostic of problem. Life is a suffering because we're constantly responding to our cravings or desires. And even after we respond to that, the, it lasts transient, and we want to get it again, and therefore we are falling into this cycle. Hence, life is a suffering. And then let's move on to the solution aspects of it. The solution aspects of it is very interesting as well. So his solution is, and in order to come to the solution, he needed to understand how our mind works. So in the craving cycle I talk about, there is stimuli, there is action, there is reward, and this transient. And human mind works in such a way that these are three discrete steps. And obviously, when we are not aware of that those three distinct states, and if you read any book on power of habit or atomic habits or any habit building or behavioral science, people will talk about these three different stages. And if you want to break any habit, we have to break those, we have to break these habits or these steps. For example, if there is a stimuli, if you do not respond at all, or if you at all, then the stimuli goes away. The same way the pleasure or pain is transient, even the stimuli is transient, and you need awareness to that. Now, how do we get that awareness? And in order to do that, you need to understand how the human mind works, and Gautam Buddha understood how the human mind works 2,600 years ago. So his discovery of solution that we can break that cycle. These stimuli, action, and reward, craving, desire, action, and reward are three different stages. I think we can break that cycle. And that's amazing discovery. And how do we break that cycle? And that's where the meditation technique comes in. The meditation technique is really amazing. So as I said, one needs to be aware of about, okay, this is the stimulus I'm getting. Now, let me observe where the stimulus comes in and not respond to it at all. And after a certain time, the stimulus goes away. And then you realize, oh my God, this actually is correct. And therefore, once you break that cycle, then there is no longer suffering. And obviously, like any other art or any other skill, is about practicing. And to practice that, to awareness of that, the meditation techniques he developed, and even the meditation techniques how to start and how to master is quite amazing. And even for that, he understood how human mind works. For that, let's understand how human mind learns something. So for human mind, we learn from really small sample sizes. Let me give you an example. If you see a fire from a matchstick, that one sample is enough to learn that a bonfire is also a fire. A fire in the gas stove is in the fire. And if you are burnt by that little matchstick, you are not going to touch the bonfire, you are not going to touch the gas fire because you have learned from this one small sample size. And human mind can generalize from that one sample to large data. Whereas we have been hearing a lot about AI or machine learning. For how is it different from human mind is that it requires a lot of data to train the algorithms or model, whereas human mind can learn from just one sample data. And even in his medicine technique, especially in the Vipassana meditation, it started with a very simple medicine technique, focusing on the senses on one particular area and and in that one focus in one particular area, learning to recognize or observe this stimulus, action, and reward, and this through the senses, through the breathing techniques. And that was amazing. After you were learned to recognize those senses in one particular space, then it moved on to Vipassana medicine, which is generalizing the entire body. And then again, to understand the to discover a solution how the human mind works, and even to design a meditation techniques how human mind works, because it can learn from simple sample data. And using that technique to generalize the different data sets is quite amazing. See, till now we're talking about Gautam Buddha already understood the evolutionary nature of it, how human mind works, and you can break the cycle of craving, action, and reward, and the reward, which is pain or pleasure, is transient, and we can break that cycle to human mind. So this habit cycle, the second thing he understood. And third cycle, you can break that. You don't have to do anything, but through meditation, you can break that. And you can design the meditation in such a way that, okay, you can observe those senses in your body through mindful meditation and through breathing. And then even that meditation technique, starting with a small space in the body and learning to recognize the observation there, and again scaling up in the entire body. Quite breathtaking. If one is able to do this one about understanding a problem, would be a genius. He discovered a solution. And the third part, the delivery of a solution at scale is makes it even mind-blowing. Now, we have we have seen so many different paths to enlightenment to end suffering. For example, people take so in the Eastern philosophy or Indian subcontinent philosophies, we generally have it three broad categories about. They call it bhakti, which is path of devotion, which is karma, which is path of action, and third jnana, which is part of jhana. So meditations and so on. Even that there are several different deeper paths. But Gautam Buddha's meditation technique, at least through Vipassana, was extremely scalable. It's so universal. Anybody can learn it. Doesn't matter what level of education you have, what religion you belong to, it really doesn't matter. Whether you are young, old, anybody can learn that. Close your eyes, focus on your breath, focus on your senses, and try to parse through that sensations of stimuli, action, reward, and learn not to take any action even if there's stimulus, and you know that stimulus will go away. Therefore, you don't have to react. You don't have to keep on reacting to the autonomous stimulus that occurs, and then you can end their suffering. And the reason why I say the third part is deliver a solution at scale is mind blowing. No education level required, no studying of literature is required, no renouncing the world affairs required. Anybody can start it. And even there, the brilliance is experiential. Even if you are a skeptic, even if you are a critic, you don't believe in those things. So again, you don't have to believe it, you just can just experience it. Postpone your skepticism for a moment. Postpone your criticism for a moment. Just sit down and learn, and in this 10 days, and you experience it by yourself. There is no intellectualization whatsoever. That's what makes it brilliant. Learn from your experience, do it, and see it for yourself. There is no preaching. There is no there's no preaching. There is no proselytizing. There is no conversion. It's simple sitting down, closing your eyes, and understanding your senses. And therefore, it anybody can do it. And you can do it at home. You can do it at your your ashrams. You can go to forest. It's everywhere you can do it. And that's what makes it beautiful. And collectively, when you think about from these three, the diagnosis of a problem, discovery of a solution, and delivery of a solution at scale, that these three put together makes the Gautam Buddha's teachings or discoveries timeless and universal. And I know some people will bring in the religious aspects of it or spiritual aspects of it, the ritual aspects of it. The way I think I come to term is that it's a virality coefficient. People need to talk about it. So talk about it. Therefore, when you add some myths, some rituals of it, there is an easy thing that people talk about and share about it in the absence of the meditation techniques or in the absence of the Buddha himself. Therefore, it increases the organic growth or word of mouth growth of the meditation technique. I see this religious aspect as or the ritual aspect as that virality coefficients for growth and grew it in last 2600 years. And after he's gone for 2600 years or 2500 years, his teaching is still relevant. And that's what makes it genius. And this is what I wanted to create the longer form of video because I want to share my experience to it. And again, this experience hasn't come through reading a lot of literature. And when I came back from Vipassana, in fact, I briefly mentioned about different paths. I have deep respect for different paths as well, because eventually the end product of all this path is dissolving the self. Again, even on self is self or the identity or ego, whatever you call it, is one of the triggers. We derive pain or pleasure from identities, ourselves, the egos. And when we understand that this is one of other senses or stimuli, and we don't need to respond to that stimuli because even that stimuli is very transient, then our identity or ego, whatever you call it, is one of the triggers. We derive pain or pleasure from identities, ourselves, the egos. And when we understand that this is one of other senses or stimuli, and we don't need to respond to that stimuli because even that stimuli is very transient, then our ego or self or our identity dissolves away and we become one with everything and everyone around. Yes, meditation is one of the ways. And if you have gone to any satsang, which is about devotion, which I have been to, if you have even gone to a rock concert, you lose your sense of self and you become one with everybody around you. And that works as well. For some people, the path of action or the karma works as well. The reason why is some people get so deep into their work that the sense of identity dissolves away. Similarly, when I talk about their paths as dhyana, jnana path, they dissolve themselves away and they become one with everything around them. So when I came back from Vipassana, I started having deeper respect for different paths as well. Whereas this Buddha's path or meditation's path techniques that I learned is also one of the paths, and I resonated really well with it because there is no believing, there is no releasing of it, there is no prioritization, there is no conversion, there is no chanting. It's simply closing your eyes and being aware of your senses and learning to parse to different stages of the human mind and learning not to respond to the stimuli. And in today's day and world, we live in abundance of stimuli. When we use social media, if somebody is wearing that, or how do I feel about that? The fear of missing out, that's a stimuli. And if you don't have, we are aware that we have that particular sense, fear of missing out. and we don't have to act on it, even that fear of missing out is very transient, it goes away. Similarly, our desire for any addictions and so on, mental health. So, for example, a lot of us suffer from mental health because we associate our problem, pains with ourselves. And when you even realize at that particular level that even that's going to go away, it's transient nature of it. Obviously, it's not an easy skill to master. As I told earlier, it's like any other skill. The better you practice, the longer you practice, more master you become. And with any skill, for example, even athleticism also, there are different levels of it. Similarly, the higher the level you go, you are master of that particular skill. Similarly, in the medicine thing as well, you can work at your level. For example, I work at level keeping myself mentally calm, being aware of the stimulus I come in. Obviously, I could go further. There we can become a monk, or some we can become a sannyasi, and some can be a gurus. They're in different levels of it. But I am not at that level. But I am at the level where I've learned to understand my mental stimuli. I learned to not respond to that. That's what makes, again, another layer of Buddha's teaching, genius. You can be at the level that you want to be and practice what works for you. I'm practicing what works for me and at the level that I'm comfortable with. And if I want to go further, being more to our monk or to our saint or to our guru, I can walk on that path as well. So in short, to summarize, that Gautam Buddha is a genius. He understood the evolutionary nature of our nature and when the our environment from scarcity changed to surplus, we can't live on our survival instinct. If we keep on living on that, then we will be endless cycle of craving and then we'll be suffering. And second part is we can break that cycle because human mind works in three different stages of like stimuli, action, reward. And we are aware of that different stages, we can break that cycle. And third, meditation is a great technique to do that. And third, anybody, delivery at scale, anybody can do it. No education level required, no prior experience required. You don't have to renounce everything. You can do anywhere, everywhere, that any time that you want after you learn it, and that makes it really scalable. And we need this more than anywhere in history because we are bombarded with stimuli, and we learn to master, or even let alone master, we are aware that we have these lot of stimuli and we don't have to act every stimuli, then we can get the response. Now, one more thing that I just recalled while I was saying through is in the Vipassana meditation technique, or even meditation technique, is a silence. And I asked why the silence is important. You know, let me give you an example or analogy. Suppose you have a muddy water bottle and it's constantly being shaken. The goal is to separate clean water from the mud. What would you do it? Can you continuously, if you continuously shake it, will you be able to remove the water from the mud or sediments? What you won't have to do is you have to keep it still. And after keeping it still, then obviously sediments will be at the bottom and water will be up, and then you can just pour the water out, which will be more cleaner water. Same way, to clean the mind at the physical level, if there is continuous stimuli going on, then it will be much difficult to understand that three different step cycle I talk about. Therefore, silence is about, okay, can I reduce those stimuli? There is no anger, there's no lies, and there is also no nonverbal communication, external stimuli. When that happens, like a bottle which the mind is still, then when the mind is still, and then it it is the prerequisite to going deeper into the mind and being aware of that three different states of the mind, understanding stimuli, the faintest of stimuli that we can experience, and that experience is quite amazing to experience the transient nature of it. For example, a very small example, when you're meditating, the itchiness is obviously one of the stimuli that will come in, and you're scanning your body for your senses. And when you come, it was itching at one place, and you're aware that, okay, I need to itch there, but you don't itch at all. And the scan the body, and when you come back, that itching is gone. And this is a very simple example. All right, even that, which looked like a very absolutely necessary stimuli for me to take action, even that goes away. Similarly, after different levels of it, different levels of pain goes away, and when you experience that. And after 10 days, when the mind is very still, doing a lot of meditation, being able to dissolve away yourself, it's like the sediments that has been in the mind is separated and the clean water is taken out the bottle. The similar kind of experience I felt. And that's the reason why I believe like every now and then this meditation retreat must be done to clean the mind at the physical level. Maybe I don't know whether I'm making sense or not, but that is the experience I've had. And again, this is something which I don't enjoy intellectualizing it. One has to experience it and take benefit out of it. So my recommendation, I wouldn't say my recommendation, try it for yourself, experience for yourself, and make up your own mind instead of getting influenced by people with agenda. So people who want to sell something, not that selling is bad, but when you're even buying, being aware that I'm buying because someone is selling because it adds value to me, not because of any other external uh, trivial reasons or inconsequential reasons. Therefore, try it for yourself. And in future, I'm going to make more videos about meditation as well, because the reason why I'm making a video about meditation, talking about meditation is, as you all know, we're building a God sphere, and God sphere is about dif being enabling people to self-care and clinical navigation for gastrointestinal issues and conditions such as constipation, diarrhea, or IBS. I think a lot of stress triggers that, and meditation is a great way to break that stress cycle. And that has so, and there are a lot of studies that show that there is a direct impact of stress in the gut microbiome and our gastrointestinal issues. And if we can break that stress and remove that stress or reduce that stress, and many studies have shown that meditation is a great technique. That's the reason why I'm talking about meditation as well. And that's the reason why I went to the meditation retreat as well, to manage my stress or to remove my stress so that I don't have the gastrointestinal distresses which I had chronic constipation, which I no longer do. That's why I talk about meditation as well. Thank you so much for watching this. If you enjoyed, learned something, please like and subscribe. And also, if you have experience and love to understand your experience of meditation, please comment and see you again. Subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much.